Good morning, everybody. Morning, Prof. There are things that I dream about in life because they are too good to be true. One of which I've had privilege to listen to Prof a million times, both in person and virtually. And by God's own design, today he has to sit down and listen to me. That in itself is a blessing for today. When I got this invitation, I asked myself, what exactly am I supposed to do? Because I've had a very heavy week in this sector with all the funding issue and the challenging landscape. And my little brother Dhuku called me again on Sunday and said, don't miss. And I said, I won't miss. And I asked myself, what exactly am I expected to do to present to knowledgeable congregation like yourself on issues Kenya and issues democracy, and what preparations are required of me. But then I asked myself, Oliver Waindi, you're 53 years old in this country, and you don't need any preparation, do I? If 53 years living in this country have not prepared me well enough to speak without any written speech, then I'm not prepared to be a Kenyan. Because for 53 years, I've seen my country grow. And for 53 years, I've seen my country regress. Those who are there, and there are not many in this auditorium, who have lived partly in the Kenyatta Senior era, Moi era, Kibaki era, Uhuru era, and now Ruto era, can attest to life, how life was in the 70s, how life was in the 80s, and how life has been regressing in the 2000 and 2010 and 2020s. And it therefore behooves upon us to discuss openly why we have let our country go to the dogs. And so the question of democracy, to situate it in our Kenyan context, is to go back many, many years and ask ourselves, how did it begin in the first place? Now, students of history, and by the way, I needed to make a clarification from the word go, that the advantage I have over majority of you is because majority of you are lawyers, and I'm not. And I'm told by my friends who are lawyers that they always have suits and ties. And so when I go to talk to lawyers everywhere on this continent, they wonder where I come from. I'm not a lawyer. And so that's the advantage I have over you. So you are confined to code of conduct. I'm not. I'm a free spirit who can think and say anything, and there is no LSK who will reprimand me. A big hand for me. Therefore, if you look back into the history of democracy, where it all began in Athens, and you look into the great books that have described democracy, whether it's the work of Plato, Aristotle, or Machiavelli, you have seen the reason why democracy came into being. And the reason was people needed to feel represented. People needed to feel their voices heard. That is what brought the republic, the discourse, and the politique. 3 important Bible books for the subject democracy. Now, of course, it's been made better by the works of Jacobson in the 18th century, and then it was brought to Africa, and then here we are. We experienced it the first time in Kenya when we had the multi-party rebirth in Kenya between KADU and KANU, and the merger that took place in 1964, and the following subsequent period, which was marked with a lot of anarchy and repressal of those who had dissenting thoughts and discourse about their country. But of course, an idea whose time has come is very hard to resist. And therefore, the declaration at Kasarani on that day that you want section, what was the section? 2A, the one that brought in multipartyism, 2A. And all of a sudden, we see the agitation in my country, and we see the vigor and the oomph in my country, people claiming and trying to reclaim their country. And we saw those who were lucky enough to be at Kamkunji, and we were there with few of you. We were still university students at Kenyan University. And we are seeing a lot of hope in our country. Of course, with a lot of confusion at the same time, because like any other new thing, it comes with dissenting and counter-dissenting voices. But then we got the 92 elections, which for obvious reasons is one because of the disorganization, state orchestrated confusion in the opposition rank, and we get into 97, and then Kayabombu steps in for those who are there. We've got these skirmishes around the country. But then we have got the IPPG for those who follow. And at that time, we got a lot of agitation in the country. How do we make sure that we got some minimum reforms before we get into the election? And for those who can remember, Orengo shouting, no reforms, no election. And we've got all that epoch that is very important for us to understand how to situate democracy in our country. But then what follows again is a period where we've got a reawakening in our politics and our political culture, which of course culminates in Kibaki Tosha, and then Kibaki becomes the first president after 24 years of KANU rule. Now that is the moment that my country then wakes up into the reality. What do we need to do to make sure that there is hygiene in our politics? What do we have to do to ensure that the Constitution embraces everybody? What do we have to do to ensure that our livelihood and our life standards are raised from point A to point B? And we've got all these efforts by Profia and the rest of those who are in the sector, Professor Kivuta Kibwana, Mwananzeki, Kina Musimi, and we have got all this agitation, which brings in the National Civic Education Program 1. So we've got a national civic education program that is trying to bring awakening into our country, so that our country can have a mature, hegemonic democracy that can be spoken about in this country and beyond. So what follows then? We've got, the 205 referendum, banana, and then you know what followed after that. The country is then getting fast, moving towards the cliff of 41 against 1, and that ultimately comes to fruition on the 31st of December 2007 and 1st of January 2008, and then we've got all this crazy stuff in our country that has never been seen before, and hopefully will never be seen again. But then, as a people, we are resilient and we are forward-looking. And then we've got all these activities that take place until the 30th of August, when we got a new constitution. The promulgation is extremely historical, because for once, Kenyans felt like they felt in 2002, you remember, when we were declared as the happiest people in the world. I've got no idea who brought that, because they didn't ask me. But anyway, whoever was asked, we were the happiest people then. So we've got all these looking forward as a country and wondering how far can we go as a country? 15 years later, we have to ask ourselves, where are we after the promulgation of the Constitution? My first degree is in economics. And one thing I was told, and I've experienced in my life in this world, is that when the economy grows, even your dog in the kennel will tell your economy has grown. So you don't have to be told the economy has grown. Amen? Amen? We are in a situation where we are being explained to how the economy has grown by throwing figures and throwing indices that 99% of my countrymen can't understand. And then you ask yourself, truth be told, today, if God, by his own design, increases your pocket, Your husband will know, your wife will know, your boyfriend, somebody will know around. It's not about Mbadi telling me olive economy has grown. And so when I met him and I asked him, Mbadi, what is this? I met him at KCC. No, Oliver, it's grown. Look at all the indices. Look at the GDP. Look at our loan ratio. Look, you're throwing figures and jargons that just confuses people who are simply hungry. And then I go to the most basic comparison of where democracy has brought us, and I ask myself, I grew up in Likoni, Mombasa, and every single time we fell sick, we would go to Likoni Health Center. There were every medicine that we needed then. And we could walk from Likoni to Mtonge to Msambweni to wherever without any problem at night. And if you had any issue, the police would actually escort you to your house. That's the Kenya we grew up in. And when I was at Aga Khan Primary School in Mombasa, I would know that I'll be sitting for my KCP at such and such a time, and I'll go to a high school. Nothing in between that confuses me whether I'm in high school or in primary school. No, you're not getting me. I am saying, when I went to the university, I was being paid for being at the university. And I ate a 5-star meal like I am at Norfolk. A lot of you can relate to that. And you ask yourself, that is not the case anymore. We send our kids to university. They spend 90% of their time looking for food and firewood to cook the food. I was called to talk to students in one of the universities recently, and I took time to go to the hostels. And I asked myself, this is not fair. If this is what democracy is all about, then it's not fair. Because democracy, as it was envisaged, was supposed to improve people's lives from the basic to higher level. We've gone back 100 years. And when it was declared in 1963 that we were fighting illnesses, diseases, ignorance, and what? And poverty, yesterday they still declared 63 people had cholera in 2025. Cholera. And not in some small counties, Nairobi, Kisumu, and Migori. And we still have 590 live births out of every 100. We've got 595 dead from every 100,000 live births in Kenya. That means that out of every 100,000 mothers who give birth, 595 still die in my country. So we ask ourselves, what exactly is ailing us as a people? We have got democracy, got constitution, and when you raise this up, they will actually shoot you dead. And when somebody says that we've lost 66, we are told, okay, shut that station, because they're trying to incite the citizens of the country against its own government. If we are not angry, I don't know what else can make us angry. Democracy has to be lived. It's not anything that's just written. It is lived. Even in your own house, you cannot just come, despite your economic powers and God-given powers, to dictate to your 3-year-old. They will resist. You know that? Mom leo hauangali TV. Then she won't eat. You don't want to switch on the TV, me, I won't eat. You know that what I'm talking about. It means that we are inherently abhorrent. We don't like to be dictated upon. As a human being, it's something so innate in us. And we have to ask ourselves, why are we here where we are? And every time I ask myself that, I remember 2 or 3 months ago when we had the inauguration in Accra of the new president of Ghana. And all the presidents came, and it was all quiet. But when Traore came, everybody shouted in that hallowed spot in Accra. Because people are so tired, because democracy is just regurgitating the same nonsense every year. And it reminds me one thing that I always say wherever I am. Is it a coincidence that in the year 1991, when I was a first year at Kenyatta University, Raila was the director of election on a party called Ford. Ruto was, of course, in YK 92, treasurer. Kalonzo Musyoka was the minister for education. Mudavadi was the minister for finance. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the year of my Lord, 1991. 25 years later, amen? The same characters still sit in hotels at our expense discussing our future. And we are okay with that because we don't want to talk evil, hear evil, or see evil. How long will it take us to realize that we are 55 million of us in these 584,000 square kilometers called Kenya? And that 2 or 3 or 4 families cannot dictate for us forever. I'm not playing politics, I'm just talking facts. Because if I asked 99% of you today, who was the US president in 91, probably you will not even get it. Who contested against Dukakis and Al Gore? Now, 99% of you will not even realize. But 1997, there were people who were on the ballot box to be my president. They were there in 2007, in 2013, 2018. I've not mentioned the names, so don't please accuse me of anything. They're going to be there again in 2027 if they don't die like Pope. And I'm asking myself, for how long are we going to be held hostage in a country that is God-given to us? Even God in heaven will not forgive us for this. I'm not saying we go to the streets. I'm not saying we do a Burkina Faso thing here, or a Gabon here, or a Mali, or a Niger, or a Chad. I'm just saying we can use the democratic principles to actually get the leadership we deserve. Like he said in 1968, Martin Luther King, just on the penultimate day of his life, he said one thing, that I have gone to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. We may not get there, all of us, but as a people, we will get there. So I've been at the mountaintop too, as an economist and as a diplomat, which is also my other advanced training, and I've seen a very beautiful country. It's not all gloom. So what makes me hopeful about my country? My country is still the hegemonic power in this region. We've messed up a bit with Memedi's story about RSF and the Khartoum government. We've messed up a bit with the issue of DRC. But we are still the most credible country in this region. And that means a lot. And that's why UN Women, last week, I said they're coming to Kenya. So we are still respected as a people. We have got a almost $300 billion economy. That is big enough, and it's enough for all of us. It's not as big as China, Indonesia, or America, but it's enough for us. So that today we've woken up in the morning and 90% of us have not taken breakfast, not because they're fasting, not because it's saumu, but just because they couldn't afford anything. If we did the right thing, they would get their food with $300 billion economy. We've got the right economy. We've got the right climate. We've got 6 permanent rivers. We've got 200 miles of ocean beach around us. We have got oil underneath. We've got water in Turkana. We've got oil. We have a beautiful country. But more than all what I've said, we have a country where people have got the intellect and have got the heart. The intellect, if you ask Prof today, and he's a professor in many universities, you'll get Kenyans in every single big university. Everything beautiful that has been done in Namibia and Botswana have all been done by Kenyans. I was privileged to visit Comoros some time back. And I thought I was just a small person, from nobody would notice me. But fortunately, like Prof, they noticed me. And they told the president. So I met the president for the first time. I said, oh, I think this is now really what I'm meant for. So when I met the president, he told me the richest person in Comoros is actually called Jerry. So I went and met Jerry. So what I'm trying to say is that we have the intellect, the capacity. We have got the heart to make this country better. And we will not allow these demagogues and what we call legacy politicians to hold back our democracy. We have got a duty to bequeath to the next generation a country that they'll be very proud of. Enough is enough of our kids going to backwater places like Myanmar and going to wash people's toilets in Saudi Arabia, and then we are told that's a government policy of creating jobs. Enough is enough of Kenyan being the highest per capita of applicants of green card. Enough is enough of my country getting so desolate that we have populated every known and unknown church in this world because we are hopeless. Enough is enough for the jokes we've had of people going to Vietnam carrying drugs and saying, liwe, liwalo. We are not being fair to our children. We got a better country when colonialists left. It behoves upon us to bequeath the next generation with even a better country. But it can't be possible until all these characters that we've mentioned and have not mentioned go. They always coalesce every 5 years and form a name. Either they are chord or hexagon or pentagon or triangular, but they're all the same tags. Ladies and gentlemen, the more I speak, the more I get angry, and therefore I don't want to get angry anymore. I wish everybody a wonderful day, and may God bless all of us. Thank you.